Now, several days ago, you'll recall that Boris Johnson resigned as the leader of the Brexit proceedings inside the UK. Now, one of the comments he made was that the EU was trying to turn the UK into a colony, and it seemed that a few Marxists on Twitter who I had a discussion with seemed to agree with him on this fact. Now, one of them even went to go so far as to claim that the UK is a colony of the United States. Well, obviously that's not true, and that doesn't make any sense. And another one claimed that the EU was trying to turn the UK into a colony. Now, that is not the case. Now, there's a very specific reason why. One, this idea that somehow the UK is a victim is a very right-wing nationalist stance. So I would be naturally skeptical of it from the beginning. I'm not saying it can't be right. I'm saying if it's coming from a rightist kind of stance, you should be skeptical and investigate it a little further. Now, why is it that the UK is not a colony of the EU, nor is the EU trying to make it one? Well, for one thing, it is voluntary to be in the EU. You can choose not to be in it, whereas colonialism is really not a choice. It's kind of a gun aimed at your head. One, colonialism is terribly exploited. Now, let me get to the specific point that people were trying to make. As a part of the EU, the UK is obligated to purchase certain things at a certain price from other European countries. So, therefore, it's a colony. Well, exactly what economic power does the EU actually have over the UK? And it should be noted that this is also a two-way street. This is part of the deal for being part of the UK, which the UK signed on to. Now, it should be said that the reverse is also true, that certain things purchased from the UK must be purchased at a certain price. So this really is a two-way street in this situation. But I think the most important thing to understand overall is that this is not colonialism. This is inter-imperialist competing interests. They do want to sell to the UK at a higher price, and the UK wants concessions from the EU in other areas. This is not colonialism. This is just contradictions between countries within the European Union, and particularly in this case, competing imperialist powers. So essentially, they're trying to get over on each other. They're trying to get access to, for competing for market shares, etc. So this idea that somehow the UK is a colony of the EU is false. This idea that the UK is a colony of the United States is frankly laughable. What the UK is a junior partner in imperialism. Yes, it has to bow to US interests in some cases, because frequently their interests intersect. They both wanted Iraq to go down so they can grab a hold of their oil. They both wanted Libya to go down so they could both get a hold of their oil. The US does not force the UK to do anything. There is an alliance between the two because they generally have the same interests. And there are conflicts between the two of them. Who's going to send forces for what? And they can have disagreements over trade, etc. Now, they can have those disagreements because they're not a colony. If the UK was simply a colony of the US, then there would be no question. It would just be something that they were ordered to carry out. This is an overly simplistic view, trying to see the UK as a victim of the US, when in fact it's a tremendous beneficiary of that same imperialist bloc, which Australia, Canada, Japan, etc. are also partners in. They are also beneficiaries. This is a very first worldist view to try to make the first world country out to be a victim in this case. They're not. They're a beneficiary, and they're not a colony. They are a junior partner in imperialism, just as Canada is a junior partner in imperialism. Although to a greater degree, Canada would be a lesser partner in imperialism due to our weaker military status. So this idea that somehow the UK is a colony of the United States or the EU is frankly just simply false.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.